Life is hectic, demanding, and doesn't stop. When honest with ourselves, we must confess we often don't know what the hell we're doing. The Larkcast is an ongoing conversation about the inclusive and mischievous nature of God's presence through the lens of all the things that make up this phenomenon we refer to as life. Astonishing grace and refreshing honesty collide right here for your weekly encouragement.
Welcome back to the Larkcast. Cheers, Russ.
Cheers to you, man.
Good to see you.
Yeah, buddy.
Can't believe it's the end of July, heading into August here.
Yeah,
and that's usually when it's like, oh man, like summer's coming down to the wire. They're making our kids go back a little bit early this year. I think their first day of school is like August 10th, whereas like in the past it was like August 17th. So it's like summer definitely feels a little bit shorter. So I don't know where you're at in the world, listener person. Hey, listener person. Hello. If you're
glad to have you.
if you're catching us on a road trip or a flight or sitting on a beach or trying to get your last bit of vacay in before the grind of school and all that starts, but we're glad you're here. And I would say overall, man, summer's been pretty awesome.
Yeah,
this year. And I know both of us just this past week had some pretty cool it's been a lark summer.
Yeah.
This past week.
Yeah, this summer we on a lark. We chose to connect with a number of people. You know, that whole very meaning of the word, something done out of uninhibited freedom. And that's been pretty cool, man, just to connect with some various people within the Lark family, various states, just in traveling, my family coming with me. And even just this past weekend, man, which is why we're late on this podcast with some crazy flight delays that threw everything into a wrench in our recording. But just this past weekend, Kristen and I got a chance to spend a weekend in Nashville with some people from Lark, man. People that are grabbed on to good news and they're passing on good news in and around St. Louis, and some new people out, man, in Fresno, California, and just to eat and laugh and chat and talk and have fun. Yeah,
Did
man.
you see Jay Cutler while you were out there?
I did not.
But you did see Harrison.
I did, man. Harry from LA, right, was just sort of in town, man, for a moment, and saw, you know, a place that I'd posted with some hot chicken that we were throwing down. And it's like, hey, dude, let's meet up. Got to go to Robert's Western Wear and eat a fried bologna sandwich and drink a beer, man, and catch up and talk about good news. And it's just joyful, man. I don't know how to describe it. It's just, there's something, just something that happens in my soul, man, in those moments.
I was kind of jealous when I saw you post a picture with Harrison, because he had invited me and three others to come get like VIP access to the Halsey tour when they were in Tinley Park.
Yeah.
But it was like July 3rd. And it's like our July 4th weekend's like already packed out. Like even the two people that I was going to bring, this gal that's going into her senior year next year has become pretty good buds with my oldest Cam. And he's going to his junior year. And I was like, hey, do you guys know Halsey? They're like, yeah. And I'm like, well, I know the drummer that's like on tour with her for this like world tour. And he just put me down for Sourcey 4 VIP backstage passes and seats, you know. Do you guys want to go? And she's like, dude, I got a 12-hour shift tomorrow. And Cam's like, I got to work too. I can't get out of it. And I was like, I tried finding like anybody that could go with me to that thing, and I couldn't. So every time Harrison's in town, it doesn't work out, and I'm bummed. So I was glad to see that you made that happen.
Dude, I do hate when that happens. I do. Life gets busy, but
Harrison, don't give up on me. Keep inviting me when you come into Chicagoland, please.
Yeah, and just know in the future, anybody listening, if you go anywhere in the Midwest around 4th of July, that is like their holiday. I found that living in Chicago for 4 years. just people, bro, in the Midwest, like get down, bro, at 4th of July. It is like this Midwestern, all-American, 4-day celebration. And
it
lots of
truly
hot
is
dogs.
July 4th weekend. You just hope to like have all your fingers and toes,
at the end.
when you're done with everything. But we've become the host house for that. So yes, I can attest to that. And like you, I didn't travel anywhere, but people in the Lark community, Travis and Jill Mullen, and their 3 kiddos and their dog, they did kind of like a coast to coast thing. They're from the Phoenix area, previously Ventura, and they went out to Maine and Rhode Island, East Coast. That's where Jill's from. And then on their way back, they parked their RV in my driveway and emptied their toilet in the sewer right next to my house. He wasn't wearing a robe or smoking a cigar, but he was.
So it wasn't Cousin Eddie.
He wasn't. He was pulling a Cousin Eddie for sure. And all my neighbors appreciated his compressor on the back of his RV running 24/7 as he was trying to air condition his RV for his dog. So shout out to Ranger, cool dog, but we have a cat, and cats tend to start peeing all over your house when they feel like they gotta get territory stuff. But no, it was fun connecting with them, and in the same week we kind of were connected with Lark people.
Yeah, dude,
pretty cool.
Cheers to the community, the scandal mongers.
Right,
that's people who are passing on this insanely good news of Jesus.
Yep. So getting back into John, we're in John chapter 4, and man, if you know anything about John in John chapter 4, we got the woman at the well, 2 episodes.
Yeah, dude.
About this interaction between Jesus and this Samaritan woman, and a bunch of cool stuff we're gonna pull out of this. So Russ, it's your week, man. Take it away.
Here we go, man. Here we go. John chapter 4. And we'll just walk through this, dude. It says, now when Jesus learned that the Pharisees had heard that Jesus was making and baptizing more disciples than John, although Jesus himself did not baptize, but only his disciples, did this, it says. He left Judea and departed again for Galilee, and he had to pass through Samaria. All right. So he's on his way somewhere. All right. And one of the things that we're going to be seeing in the life of Jesus is he's constantly setting his eyes toward Jerusalem because his mission is to die. Okay. Life comes through the death, right, of someone else on our behalf. And it says here that he departed, it says, again for Galilee, and he had to pass through Samaria. And just to make like a quick note here, man, he did not have to pass in the sense that we think when we read that, oh man, he had no choice but to go here.
Right.
That's actually not true. Rabbis had written down many ways to avoid Samaria for any Jewish person who was traveling, because the last place that you could be would be Samaria, and the last place that you would want to be is Samaria, because in your eyes, these are a people who are devoid of all that is humanity. This is seen as a disgusting place, a second-class society, the problem in the world. I know that's very foreign to the way that we think today in modern society, to think of certain people who believe certain ways or think certain ways are lesser than we are, and therefore should be avoided at all cost.
Or certain regional places where these people are found.
Yes. Yep.
For people that are all into lineage, right? And God loving you or your place in the kingdom because of your lineage. Samaritans were ethnically mixed. And for people who were all about theological acuteness, these people were heretics. They were religious heretics.
Yep. Yes. So again, through various writings that Jesus would have been familiar with, and again, just being God in the flesh, probably would also be aware of, there are other ways, to get where he's going than through Samaria. So it's saying that he had to. Right. That's the kicker, man. Like, yes, he had to. Okay. And the reason why he had to is because he had something there that he needed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that, man. To me, it's like the whole premise of this story begins with just understanding that.
I love that.
Right. And so it says that he had to pass through Samaria. So he came to a town of Samaria called, dude, how do you say that word, man?
I don't know. Just
right?
Do it like how we did back when we were in ministry and preaching. Just say it confidently and like just move on. People are like, oh, yeah.
Yep. There it is. Yeah, I always laugh about that, especially when you do the research. Oh, you say it this way or this way or this way. I'm like, whatever.
And you're like, and we're never going to be friends. So just don't talk to me.
Yeah, don't. Yeah, just leave me alone. It says near the field that Jacob had given to his son Joseph. Okay, Jacob's well was there. So Jesus, wearied as he was from his journey, was sitting beside the well. Jesus is human. Okay, he was weary. Now, some people are like, well, what, I don't know, man. What was he weary about? And there's all these like interpretations that come into it. I'm just going to land on just the text saying that he was tired. So he sat down. And it was about the 6th hour. Okay. That's an important piece here. All right. It says a woman from Samaria came to draw water. And Jesus said to her, give me a drink. For his disciples had gone away into the city to buy food. The Samaritan woman said to him, how is it that you, a Jew, ask for a drink from me, a woman of Samaria? For Jews had no dealings with the Samaritans.
How many dealings?
Well, it says no. The word's also translated none, zero, nada,
zilch.
Zilch. But I mean, it could also mean like some dealings. Just kidding. It just means no dealings.
In the Greek, it's hell no.
Hell no. Yeah. So this is kind of what you have going on here. And this is a big deal. People are reading this and they're like, man, I don't understand. Like all he did was just ask her for a drink of water. A guy asking a lady for a drink of water.
Bro. Why is this such a big deal?
Like, why is this even a conversation? But this is a big deal. Okay. This is a far bigger deal than you can imagine. The very act of Jesus asking a Jewish man, a Samaritan woman for a drink of water is straight up scandalous.
Mm-hmm.
This is a scandalous act. And if you back up just a few verses, that Jesus had to do. Mm-hmm. He had to do this, I believe so. So you have a Jewish man, right, who's not supposed to be speaking to a woman. I mean, you've even got cases, man, where Jewish men wouldn't even speak to their wives or their daughters in public in certain settings.
Right.
So, and then to be speaking to a Samaritan, which is like, this is your chief rival enemy. Mm-hmm. These are the two tribes that hate each other. Okay.
Right.
Like this is a very scandalous act here. And again, as I already read, Samaritans, right, have no dealings with the Jewish people. The Jewish people have no dealings with the Samaritans. And if you also notice just a couple of verses prior to that, it says that this was happening at the 6th hour. So this whole shindig, bro, is going down at noon in the daylight, out for everybody to see. Broad daylight. This is the opposite of Nicodemus. Okay. In the last chapter, coming to Jesus, right, under the guise of night, sneaking in to ask some questions about who is he really? This is Jesus doing the opposite of that.
The light of the world, broad daylight, doing scandalous stuff.
Yeah. It almost makes you look at him and you're like, man, he's like, unlike the rest of us, he doesn't seem to be very desperate for the sense of status or significance that comes with what other people think of him.
Yeah, no.
He just doesn't track with it, man. He's actually this thing called free. We talk about this a lot in Lark. He's free to go walk in this very scandalous act that would be despised from both tribes and just completely not care. He's got something to do here, something he needed to do. And I just, man, to me, that's huge. And so he says, give me a drink. Let me back up just a second. Jesus answered, she's like pushing back on like, why would you, a Jewish man, ask me, a Samaritan, a woman for a drink? And
yeah,
Jesus
she
says
knows.
to her, he's like, listen, if you knew, I love this. If you knew the gift of God and who it is that is saying to you, give me a drink, you would have asked him and he would have given you living water. The woman says to him, "Sir, you have nothing to draw water with, and the well is deep. Where do you get this, this living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob? He gave us this well and drank from it himself. Like this." She's like, "Wait a second. As did his sons and his livestock." And Jesus said to her, "Everyone who drinks of this water, okay, will be thirsty again. But whoever drinks of the water that I will give him will never be thirsty again. The water that I will give him will become in him a spring of water welling up to eternal life." The woman said to him, "Sir, give me this water so that I will not be thirsty or have to come here to draw water." Okay. So we'll just stop there for a second. She's not picking up what he's putting down.
You get this a lot. Like in my passage, there's a similar thing. His thing is, in my passage, it's food, and they're like, food, like what? Like it's the same interaction.
Yeah. She's not understanding the situation. She's not understanding what he means by living water. She's just not picking up on it. But what I love about this is Jesus is patient.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you've seen this. I've seen this. We've talked about this a lot. You don't see Jesus always being very patient with the religious crowd, okay, that is trying to pit him against something or trying to hold something over him or cause a dissent.
Mm-hmm.
He seems to be pretty blunt. But when it's someone who seems to be not understanding or grasping something, but yet it seems to be like this earnesty to see, to understand, to know.
Mm-hmm.
There seems to be this level of patience that goes on there. And so right out of the gate, Jesus says to her, like, listen, he refers himself as the gift of God. The gift of God. This is a big deal, man. I know sometimes we think of ourselves as the gift of God, right? But geez, this actually is the gift of God.
I knew a dude who dressed in a legit like Christmas box, had it wrapped and everything, and came to a Halloween party as like God's gift to women. And that's what the tag said.
Wow.
It was such a killer costume.
I mean, you gotta love the humor in that, right? You gotta love the boldness in it.
But to actually refer to yourself as the gift of God
would be
either you're extremely arrogant, yes, or maybe know a little something,
or maybe you are God.
Actually,
maybe you are God who intentionally became flesh, which is what we've been unpacking.
Yeah.
To be the gift of salvation, to be the very life of a broken world. You know what I mean? This is straight up a gift, man. He's not a teacher. He's not a mentor. He's not an example, you know what I mean, that any of us are ever going to follow. Let's just drop that. He's the gift of God. He's the Messiah.
Yeah. Amen.
And so she wonders, like, man, are you above Jacob? Like seriously, like, because that's kind of where like that's where our story begins. You know what I mean? That's where our religion starts to take shape, form, and fashion. And of course, to that, you're like, yeah, you might want to go back and do a little more reading about Jacob. Being above Jacob wouldn't be that difficult. Of course, being above anybody in the scriptures other than Jesus wouldn't be that difficult because they're all just flawed people like the rest of us. But again, her perspective, you know what I mean? That's where she's coming from.
Oh, the last passage, he who comes from above is greater than all.
Yeah, it's like
comes from above.
From above. Like, like a gift. Like a gift of God. And so he says, like, the water that he offers, man, it's endless and it actually quenches thirst. Okay. It's a reference to something that goes far beyond just this water that's sitting at the bottom of this well that they're sitting at. And again, he's being very patient with her. It's this act of love. He doesn't rebuke her. Okay. He actually starts to press in, okay, intentionally to her story. And I feel like in how he goes about this, she begins to see who he really is. But he also does it in a way where, again, he's not condemning her.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's touching on something very, very personal.
Very personal.
But she's drawn into the light, not like previously in John where we've talked about, for we love the darkness rather than the light, for our deeds are evil. There's a drawing in, and the way it ends too kind of has me rethinking, like how this was handed to me and how I used to hand it off to others.
Okay. Well, let's get into that. I'm going to read these next few verses just to give our audience some perspective, and we'll close all this out here. Jesus said to her, okay, in her sort of moment of confusion, he says, go call your husband and come here. The woman answered him, I have no husband. Jesus said to her, you are right in saying, I have no husband, for you have had 5 husbands, and the one you now have is not your husband. What you have said is true, the woman said to him. Sir, I perceive that you are a prophet. Our fathers.
Love that line.
I do too. It's kind of hard to read that one, man.
Oh crap! I just met you, and you know all this about me, sir. I perceive you're a prophet.
You seem to have an understanding that I didn't think anyone else had. He says, our fathers worshiped. She's what she says. She says, our fathers worshiped on this mountain, but you say that in Jerusalem is the place where people ought to worship. And Jesus said to her, woman, which is actually an endearing term, just to be clear. This isn't like, woman, get your butt in the kitchen, right. Kind of like jargon that, we've all heard in the past.
Similar to the wedding at Cana when he referred to his mom
it's
as a woman. Sure.
It's an endearing term. He says, believe me, the hour is coming when neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem, this is huge, will you worship the Father. He says, you worship what you do not know. We worship what we know, for salvation is from the Jews. Mm-hmm. It's a reference to the lineage, the Messiah is coming in and through the Jewish people, Jesus. He says, but the hour is coming and is now here when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and truth. For the Father is seeking such people to worship him. God is spirit, and those who worship him must worship in spirit and truth. The woman said to him, I know that Messiah is coming, he who is called Christ. When he comes, he will tell us all things. Jesus said to her, I who speak to you am he.
Crazy, man.
Right. So this whole he's just a teacher. He's just a good rabbi. He's just a great mentor, an example we should all follow. No, bro. Once again, out of Jesus's mouth, the gift of God, the Messiah. That's who's talking to you. That is me.
What's wild is normally, and it comes out a little bit more in the synoptic gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, but he'll do something and people are like, dude, you're it. You're the one. And he's like, yeah, just shush on that, for a hot minute. But with her, of all the people, to reveal this to, you would think it would be the most important religious people. And in fact, his very first kind of mic drop, I am that guy, is the exact opposite on the religious social spectrum, all the way down to the bottom of a Samaritan woman who's been divorced 5 times and is in a relationship with a man that's not her husband. She's a religious heretic. She's got a bunch of just relational brokenness going on, and Jesus reveals who he is to her. The grace of this moment is insane.
And this is a woman who has had a hard life. She's living a hard life. You don't live in a Samaritan village or a Jewish village or anywhere for that matter at that time, in which you've been divorced 5 times. And now you're with someone who's not your husband, dude.
In a culture where women don't divorce men.
No, cannot divorce men. So she's been divorced by a man 5 times.
Yes.
And in a society where without the help of a man would be very difficult to make it.
Right.
Which might be why she's with another man right now who's not her husband.
There was no I am woman, hear me roar going on.
Oh, no.
We can do this,
Mm-hmm. No, the land of opportunity
tied around backwards with the chick with the flex in the arm. There wasn't any of that going on back then.
Yeah. A free society with the freedom to pursue whatever opportunity you wanted to, man. It's today, what we see here, that's not in this case, man. And I think Jesus seems to know this. So although he does bring to light her struggle, and which could be very much caused by her, we don't know. She could have been abused by all of them. She could have been, guilty of adultery 5 times in a row. Like we don't know.
Right.
But regardless if it was caused or something that, was handed to her, her life's hard, man. And Jesus seems to meet her in that.
I've seen it, I've heard this whenever you get to talking about the love of God and the grace of God. Everyone always has the buts, the howevers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is a classic passage that's always brought up to be like, well, we got to confront people's sin. Like you have to get to the conversation. Look at John 4. Look at the woman at the well. Jesus confronted her sin. If you want to like throw the label and just really say like what's going on here in this exchange, if you want to abbreviate it by saying Jesus is confronting her sin, I just feel like that's like insanely like just short-sighted. There's so like in light of everything that you've shared, there's so much more going on here. And especially too, like I don't want to ruin the passage, but look what she does and how she perceives him sharing and this sort of knowledge of her. This knowledge of her is a positive thing. In fact, it becomes the very core of her message to others. So to say like, yeah, man, like Jesus just putting a finger in her face and like condemning her and saying, hey, I got to confront your sin, so to speak. In light of how she reacts, I think maybe there might be something a little bit going on here. Maybe he's tipping his hat into his knowledge, just the fact that he is the Christ. In light of the fact that men don't divorce women, maybe it's a little bit more of an acknowledgement of where you are. Like, I see you. I know what's going on. And yeah, I'm sure she's had some stuff that's embarrassing, in that for sure. Maybe there's a way she sabotaged her relationships. Maybe she's barren physically. Maybe she can't have kids and she's worthless, to a society, that wants to be fruitful. But we don't know. It's all speculation. But I think the fact that if you label John 4 as just like, well, Jesus is just here to confront her sin, it's like, dude, dig a little deeper.
No, I'd 100% agree, because a few things. One, we're already all guilty because that's what the law's already declared. So you can just back up in chapter 3 of John. So if you're going to run with John 4 and that premise that you just brought up, which I hear people say that all the time and why we need to do this. Well, chapter 3 already disputes that. We're not lost, because of what we've done. We're lost because we refuse to accept the acceptance that we've received. The law has condemned us, but we run from the light, not because the light's not good, but we think that our darkness somehow can't be overcome, or we're afraid of what God's like and what he's going to do with it, which seems to be what Jesus continues to reveal to us. And so I think, he does bring something up to show who he is, to move her, right? To kind of meet her where she's at. And yes, it is, she is guilty of this in some form or fashion for sure. But I don't think that is in any way why she responds with like, well, I'm in. You know what I mean? Like she doesn't like all of a sudden run into the light because she's guilty.
Others.
Right. Oh, now that you just said I'm guilty, I'm totally going to see you as a Messiah. She already knows she's guilty. She's already an outcast in her culture.
Yeah. Even if you want to say he's purely like bringing up her darkness, just the fact that he's still sticking around for this conversation and still wants to engage relationally and be involved, right? Like, okay, cool. You want to say that? That's fine. Check it out. He knows everything about her in that way and still wants to have a relationship with her, still wants to have a friendship.
Yep. Yeah. John, what is it? 3:17. I came not into the world to condemn the world, but so that the world might be saved through me. So if you think Jesus here is doing this to condemn her, and this is why we need to therefore condemn and call out,
yeah,
I'd say, I think you've missed chapter 3 and also missed what Jesus is actually doing here.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't double down on that or press into that or give her some solution for how she needs to go now correct that with God's help. Like he's this jetpack that she's going to put on.
He doesn't follow her into town and perform a wedding ceremony so she could be like legit.
Right.
And to get out of sin.
Yep. Instead, he says to her, listen, the hour is coming and it is now here. You think you need to worship here by the well. You talk about the Jewish people, say, no, you got to be at the temple. And if you're not there, then your worship doesn't count. Well, I'm telling you, Jesus's words, the hour is coming and is now presently here, where the true worshipers, the people who, as in like the people who actually awaken to what is real. The true worshiper is not like a quality of them, to be clear. That's not the statement.
Right.
Okay. It's a qualifier of their worship, not a qualifier of them. So the true worshipers, as in people who are actually living in awe and in light of who God really is and what he's really like, won't be going to the temple. Because guess what? That thing's coming down, which he'll make known later on. And they won't be doing it here at the well. They'll be worshiping by spirit, whoever they are, wherever they are. That's the day that's coming. That's what I'm bringing about through my death and resurrection.
Yeah, you see the creed cult. Yeah,
there it is.
You see the creed cult conduct still at play. Is it here? Is it there? Right? She gets into this like theological debate. There's a right worship practice going on. That's cult. There's creed. You say it's here, we say it's there. It's the theological banter back and forth. And he goes, listen, man, like, first of all, people are going to worship in spirit from the heart. This is not going to be an external thing. This is going to be something that impacts you in the most deepest place of who you are.
Yeah.
And you're going to do this in truth. And not to, spoil John 14, but Jesus is the truth. So you're worshiping from the heart through Jesus, knowing who he is, how he brings us back to the Father, reconciles us to the Father. Yeah. That's what Jesus means. Authentically from the heart. This is a genuine thing, not just a religious external thing. And it has everything to do with knowing me as Savior.
Yeah. It'll be like this well that has sprung up in you, using his words. It's endless. It truly quenches the thirst.
Yeah.
You're longing for joy, for meaning, for purpose. Okay. For freedom, for worth, for that sense of oneness and belonging, hope, all that. Yeah. All that's going to be, all that thirst that you have for that will be met.
Yeah.
When you see and know me.
The rat race you run.
Yeah.
For significance, for belonging, for identity, for title, for position.
It's for right money. Here in front of you.
I
love that, man, because it just makes me think in just terms of like even what we set out to do as a ministry, of just really doubling down on this message, this declaration of God's scandalous love, his grace, this freedom that we have, the freedom that we were set free for, as Galatians says. Okay. When that happens, man, you become this worshiper in spirit and truth, wherever you are, whoever you are. And now all the conversations that we've been in and all the endless, religious have-tos and how-tos and what church, when it really counts and when it doesn't, and all these things, it just dissipates, man.
Yeah.
When you awaken to this, you go, oh, how, and because if you think about it, man, like so much of Christendom today, church culture today is very temple centered.
Oh yeah.
It's the opposite of what Jesus is actually declaring here. And so it just ends this way. We'll close it out here. It says, just then his disciples came back. They marveled. I love that. They really don't know what to do with this because they themselves don't get any of this either, just to be clear. So
I don't know if marveled is really a positive thing either.
Right. And they just marveled that he was talking with a woman. Oh my God, how dare he, right? But no one said, what do you seek? Or why are you talking with her? So the woman left her water jar and went away into town and said to the people, come, see a man who told me all that I ever did. Can this be the Christ? Not, hey, this guy just condemned me for what I did, just revealed all my brokenness. And now I am so ready to just walk in the light. You should come see him. No,
that's what I'm saying.
This guy I never even knew just literally talked to me about things in my life that he doesn't know.
This dude just read my email, dragged me through the mud and condemned me. You guys want to meet him?
It's so great.
Yo, I met this new guy today. Yeah, he's great. He just heaped a bunch of condemnation on me.
Yeah.
And knew stuff about me that I was extremely embarrassed of, and said it out loud in public at noon. You guys want to meet him too?
He's great.
Great.
So she says, come and see him. I love this. Can this be the Christ? Question mark. They went out of the town and they were coming to him. That's in there.
Mm-hmm.
So, man, such a beautiful truth. And I don't want to keep talking because it's all going to go into next week's podcast, which to me is great, and picking up like where this conversation is and how it starts to, really seep down into the soil, man, of life from a variety of different people. So,
yeah.
But man, come see this guy. I think he's the Christ.
Yeah, dude, good stuff. Can't wait to get into the next conversation. It's basically the same story. It bleeds in. And man, the grace, the love, the depth when you really dive in and do a little bit of work. And I think that's why it's important, like what we're doing. And I know a lot of the people that we connect with have a complicated relationship with God, with the church, and with the scriptures in particular.
Yep.
And there's a lot floating around out there about the scriptures. And it's like, man, I don't know like the ins and outs of all the details and all the nuances and all that. But man, like to me, this is God's word. It's true. I cling to it. It's my standard in life. And when you dive in, really, really dive in and kind of help bridge the gap culturally, you know what I'm saying? And try to put yourself back there and just get a few tools, in your hands to help you kind of like understand. Holy cow, dude. It's just so freaking rich and beautiful.
Yeah. Encouraging, life-giving, literally life-giving to any of us, man. If we'll just take the time to listen and let what he said be what he said.
Amen.
So to that,
time.
Cheers.
Cheers.